on. Secretary of State Pompeo was on it as well. And he flat out asked about the bone saw. Was there a bone saw? He referred to Secretary Pompeo and said, Mike, I've been in a lot of difficult negotiations, but I've never had to take a bone saw. Mike, have you ever taken a bone saw to a negotiation? No, Mr. President, I certainly have not. And then to the king, we need to know, because if there was a bone saw, this changes everything. Even looking back now, we believe King Salman truly didn't know. We didn't believe that MBS knew nothing.
The UN Special Rapporteur on Human Rights, Agnes Callamard, decided to investigate. She concluded that in all likelihood, MBS had ordered the killing.
It became very clear that an operation of such a size, such a scale, with this kind of individuals involved, could not have moved forward without the agreement of the Crown Prince, without him ordering the operation. I was hoping that we will see much more action taken by the White House on Saudi Arabia and holding Mohammed bin Salman accountable, and on getting a little bit more on, on accountability for the killing of Jamal Khashoggi. Sadly, that did not happen.
But MBS was the Trump administration's man.
Frankly, for most of us looking at U.S. national security interests, this was a critical partnership. We could not afford to throw the baby out with the bathwater, even if we determined that the baby was a murderer.
Instead of publicly accusing MBS, America privately sent help.
He said to me that he didn't do it. I certainly wanted to believe him. And there was a part of me that thought, no one could be that stupid. This guy who I'd been dealing with, who I saw, he's smart. It was hard for me to believe he did it. The advice I gave him was, you say you were not responsible, you didn't know about this. This ended up being a rogue operation. So the fact is, these are all people who work for you. You need publicly to take responsibility. You need to say, I didn't do it, but these people work for me, therefore I'm responsible. And he said, yes, I will assume responsibility. He said he would.
Did you order the murder of Jamal Khashoggi?
بلا شك لا.
Absolutely not. This was a heinous crime. But I take full responsibility as a leader in Saudi Arabia.
Mohammed bin Salman, he's admitted that the Saudis did this. So as far as he's concerned, this is a closed case, and that it's being used perpetually as a cudgel against him and against his country.
I was there. I was witness from the beginning. It was a surprise for them. Can you imagine your reputation as a crown prince everywhere? The people talk about you as a killer. It must be really difficult for him.
But despite the international outrage over Khashoggi, there is evidence another hit squad left Saudi Arabia less than 2 weeks after his murder. Saad al-Jabri is a former head of security in Saudi Arabia. He had fallen out with MBS a year earlier and was living in Canada. Saad says a group of men connected to the royal court was stopped at Ottawa Airport in Canada. They were prevented from entering the country by immigration, en route to assassinate him.
What we know, there's a team, they came to Canada. They have forensic experts as well. They say they have equipment for DNA. I don't know, what does that mean? Why do they bring it to Canada? He planned for my assassination. There is no question about the motive. MBS sees me as a threat to him, and he will not rest off until he sees me dead. I'm sure.
Only a year earlier, in documented WhatsApp text messages, he threatened my dad of saying that he would use arrest warrants, legal lawsuits. And then towards the end, he said, and other means would be harmful to you. That wasn't implicit, that was explicit.
The fact that they would send a hit squad to Canada 2 weeks after Khashoggi shows a complete lack of awareness of what's happened, what the reaction to Khashoggi was. A complete misunderstanding of how the West works, how the media would react, how governments would react. A sense of we have an objective and damn the consequences.
In the aftermath of the Khashoggi murder, investment promises worth billions that MBS had fought hard for slipped away. The following month, at a meeting of the G20 in Argentina, MBS was treated as a pariah. But one international leader sought him out.
It was no surprise to me that the one like-minded figure for MBS at that summit was Vladimir Putin. And they had their famous high five together. MBS saw Vladimir Putin as something of a role model as to how to exercise and assert and project power. And if Putin can launch attacks on his dissidents overseas, then maybe MBS can as well.
MBS was facing the biggest crisis of his time as Crown Prince. With businesses becoming wary of investing in the kingdom, he would have to find a way to finance his ambitious plans himself. Saudi Arabia is the world's biggest exporter of oil. It pumps millions of barrels a day, and MBS can single-handedly affect its price. In late 2021, MBS pushed the oil price up to over $100 a barrel. In some parts of America, this meant the price of petrol reached $7 a gallon. Dangerous territory for any American president.
Biden, facing a midterm election in 2022, is desperate to bring the price of oil down because in the United States, everyone is blaming him for the high price of oil and for the possibility of a recession.
Biden sent his national security advisor to Saudi Arabia with a request for MBS.
The ask was basically, increase your production so you can help the Democrats in their electoral prospects. Because it's not in his national interest and he's not in the business of saving President Biden in his midterm elections. Mohammed bin Salman refuses then to do so.
But MBS and President Biden also had a troubled history.
My mom would say left hand closest to the heart.
During a presidential candidates debate in the aftermath of the Khashoggi killing, Joe Biden had insulted Saudi Arabia.
I would make it very clear, we were not going to, in fact, sell more weapons to them. We were going to, in fact, make them pay the price and make them, in fact, the pariah that they are.
And once in power, Biden had released a